On a cold night in 1933, a group of Inuit people came upon a derelict cargo ship drifting in the icy waters off the coast of northern Alaska. They decided to explore the abandoned ship to see if they could find anything of value. But almost as soon as they boarded, the winds shifted and a violent storm blew in seemingly from nowhere, trapping them inside. As the Arctic winds raged outside, the small group had nothing to do but listen to the ghostly groans of the ship as she ground against the shifting ice. When the storm finally cleared 10 days later, they fled, never to look back. The phantom ship would soon vanish. She would mysteriously reappear numerous times all over the Beaufort Sea for the next 3.5 decades. The SS Baychimo was originally launched in Sweden in 1914. Her original name was Ångermanälven, after the Swedish river. Her original owners were German, and she was used as a trading vessel between Hamburg and Sweden through the First World War. She was relatively modest in size, weighing in at 1,322 tons with a length of 230 feet. She was powered by a triple expansion engine and could achieve a cruising speed of 10 knots. After the war, she was handed over to the British as a war reparation in 1920. She left the Baltic Sea for the last time and was purchased in London by the Hudson Bay Company for £15,000. She was renamed the Baychimo. Her first voyage with the company took place in 1921 in the Eastern Arctic. The next year, she was sent to Siberia with her new captain, Sidney Cornwell. He would remain her captain for the rest of her career. The Baychimo would spend the next 2 years trading furs in Siberia, but political tensions in Russia soon led the Hudson Bay Company to withdraw from the area. After 1924, she would begin operating in the Western Arctic, traveling between Vancouver and Hudson Bay Company posts along the Yukon and Northwest Territories. She would complete 9 difficult voyages in the area carrying cargo and furs. She was typically manned by around 32 crew members and would occasionally carry passengers. Every winter, she would travel back to her home port in Ardrossan, Scotland. She would return to Canada through the Panama Canal, and in 1924, she would also travel through the Suez Canal, successfully circumnavigating the globe. But her luck on these dangerous voyages would soon run out. The Baychimo experienced particularly treacherous weather conditions in her 1931 season. She would frequently find herself mired in fog and heavy ice throughout the summer. By late September, as she passed the Seahorse Islands near Point Barrow, Alaska, the Baychimo experienced an unexpected blizzard. Her crew was forced to drop anchor and weather the storm. But by October 1st, conditions continued to deteriorate and the steamship was soon trapped in heavy pack ice. Recognizing the dire situation, the crew abandoned the vessel and traveled half a mile through the snow to the town of Barrow, where they would shelter for the next 2 days. When they returned, the stricken vessel had broken free from the ice. The ship had sustained heavy damage in the storm, and it was clear that it would be impossible to safely sail her further southwest. Her crew decided that they would have to remain in the area to watch over her through the winter. But on October 8th, the situation grew even worse when the ship once again became mired in the ice, this time much more thoroughly than before. On the 15th, the Hudson Bay Company sent an aircraft to retrieve the crew, but Captain Cornwell and 14 of his men refused to leave their ship behind. The company provided them with provisions to last the winter, and they constructed a crude temporary shelter nearby. They wouldn't dare live on board the ship. It was impossible to keep the large vessel heated, and the shifting ice threatened to sink her at any moment. Over the next few days, they performed daily maintenance on the ship, mainly clearing ice from her rudder to prevent damage. But their routine was cut short when on November 24th, a blinding storm struck the area. When it finally cleared, the Baychimo was nowhere to be seen. Captain Cornwell and his crew assumed that the powerful storm had sunk the damaged ship. They headed back to Barrow to await transport to Vancouver. But to their surprise, an Inuit seal hunter spotted the derelict vessel a few days later, trapped in ice near Skull Cliff some 45 miles away. Captain Cornwell and his crew tracked her down and concluded that the ship was far too heavily damaged to safely survive the winter. They removed her remaining cargo and abandoned their ship for the last time, knowing that she would probably break up in the brutal icy waters of the Beaufort Sea. Captain Cornwell and his remaining crew were flown back to Vancouver soon after. The SS Baychimo was officially deemed a loss, and the men went on with their lives. But later that winter, to everyone's surprise, the Baychimo was spotted some 300 miles east of where she was originally abandoned. This would be the first of many mysterious appearances. She was next spotted by a man named Leslie Melvin. He was traveling to Nome with his dog sled team when he came across a ship floating peacefully near the shore. A few months later, she was discovered by a group of prospectors. At first, the sightings were an odd surprise, but nothing too extraordinary. The area was, and still is, extremely treacherous. It was not uncommon for ships to be overtaken by the ice and abandoned by their crews. Usually, once a ship was abandoned, she would succumb to the elements in a few days or weeks, but occasionally one of these ships would survive a season or two before finally foundering. So when the Baychimo appeared in the distance again and again over the next several months, locals didn't think much of it. But as time went on, and the derelict ship kept appearing, stories began to circulate that something supernatural was guiding the phantom ship. Those who spotted her would claim that it appeared that she was piloted by some unseen crew, as she drifted away from rocky shoals and other hazards that would challenge even manned vessels. In 1933, her legend grew when a group of Inuit people were forced to shelter on the ghost ship when a freak storm trapped them in her hull for 10 days. These strange events helped earn the Baychimo a reputation as a cursed ship. Later that summer, she was boarded by the crew and passengers of the Trader, a small schooner that was on a research expedition to collect Alaskan and Arctic wildflowers. So charming. After they finished exploring the ship, she disappeared in the night. But throughout the remainder of their voyage, the Baychimo would appear several more times, just on the horizon, as if she was following them. In November 1939, there was an attempt to salvage her by Captain Hudson, but his vessel was too small to safely take control of the much larger Baychimo. This was the last recorded boarding of the ship. She was spotted several more times throughout 1939, but she always eluded capture. Recorded sightings slowed considerably during World War II and in the years after. It was assumed that she finally succumbed to her long overdue fate and she was more or less forgotten. But then, out of nowhere, she was spotted by a group of Inuit people in March 1962, floating near the shore of the Beaufort Sea. Her last recorded sighting took place in 1969 when she was seen drifting in heavy pack ice, 38 years after she was originally left for dead. Though she hasn't been sighted in decades, her mystery continues. Her unnatural ability to remain afloat unmanned in one of the most treacherous bodies of water continues to baffle investigators. In 2006, the Alaskan government commissioned a project to solve her mystery, but to date, nothing has been found. The sightings we know about are only those that were recorded to history. How many others managed to explore the phantom vessel? What did they find when they explored her empty cabins or ventured deep into her cargo holds? Was she supernatural? How did she survive so long in the icy waters? And did she finally sink? Or is she still out there, drifting in some far-off, forgotten stretch of the Arctic, waiting to be found once again?